Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that honestly feels like it was ripped straight from a techno-thriller. We're talking about how an AI company, publicly trashed by the president, ended up becoming a secret weapon for the Pentagon in a new war, all within a matter of hours. So it all kicked off with this. On February 27th, 2026, President Trump went on Truth Social and just unloaded on the AI company Anthropic, ordering every single federal agency to stop using their tech, effective immediately. But here's where it gets wild. Literally hours after that public takedown, the Pentagon turned around and used that exact same AI in the opening shots of a new conflict with Iran. So what is going on here? How does a piece of technology go from being completely blacklisted one minute to being a critical weapon of war the next? Let's get into it. On the very first day of what the military called Operation Epic Fury, U.S. Central Command was using Anthropic's AI, named Claude, for absolutely critical missions. We're talking mission planning, battlefield simulations, and even identifying and prioritizing around 1,000 potential targets. This was not some minor experiment. It was core to the war effort, right from the jump. To really get why this happened, we've got to rewind the clock a little bit and look at the huge disagreement that set this whole firestorm in motion. And at the center of it all, you have Anthropic. Now, the key thing to know about them is they're a public benefit corporation. They were founded by a bunch of ex-OpenAI people who are really focused on AI safety. And their legal structure, that PBC status, means they actually have to balance making money with doing good for the public. And that little detail is crucial to this whole story. So the conflict basically boiled down to this. Anthropic drew a couple of hard lines in the sand. They said, look, you cannot use our AI for mass surveillance of Americans, period. And you can't plug it into a fully autonomous weapon that kills without a human pulling the trigger. But the Pentagon's view was essentially, thanks, but no thanks. We need the right to all lawful uses, and we can't let a private company tell us how to conduct national security. So Anthropic wouldn't budge. And the government's reaction? It was swift and it was harsh. And like you so often see, a huge competitor was waiting in the wings, ready to pounce on the opportunity. I mean, just check out how fast this all went down. February 27th, Trump's post goes up. The next day, OpenAI, Anthropic's main rival, announces they have a deal with the Pentagon. A few days after that, Anthropic gets officially branded a supply chain risk, which is a label usually saved for foreign adversaries. And by March 9th, everybody's lawyering up. And that OpenAI deal, that's a whole other story. Their CEO, Sam Altman, basically swooped right in and signed a contract that, get this, had pretty much the same safety promises that Anthropic was just punished for making. Altman himself even admitted later that the whole move looked opportunistic and sloppy. But look, this is way more than just two companies fighting over a contract. This whole episode really pulls the curtain back on the super complicated, sometimes totally contradictory relationship between Silicon Valley and the U.S. military. Because that whole media narrative, the brave little company standing up to the big bad military, that's not really the full picture. The truth is, Anthropic was already a huge defense contractor. They were already deeply woven into the national security world. In fact, way before this public blow-up, Anthropic had teamed up with Palantir to get its AI onto classified government networks. Its tech was even used in the raid that captured Venezuela's president. And on top of that, they already had a $200 million deal with the DoD. So this wasn't really a company saying no to war. It was a company trying to negotiate the rules of its involvement. So you have to wonder, why are these AI companies getting so deep in the military business anyway? Well, a huge part of the answer is this number right here, $100 billion. That's the amount of venture capital that flooded into defense tech in just 2 years. And here's the simple truth of it. Running these giant AI models costs an unbelievable amount of money. These companies are just burning through cash to keep their massive data centers humming. But you know who has an almost unlimited budget and a perfect record of paying on time? Yep, the Pentagon. The financial gravity is just impossible to ignore. And this whole push to get AI on the front lines is forcing us to deal with some really, really tough ethical questions. You've got stuff like automation bias, which is our natural tendency to just trust what a computer tells us, even if it's wrong. Then there's the accountability mess. If an AI helps call in a bad strike, who's to blame? The programmer? The commander? And maybe the scariest one is the risk of escalation. In one study, when they let AIs run war games, the models consistently chose to escalate the conflict, sometimes all the way to nuclear war. Now you might be thinking, hey, don't we already have laws for this stuff, the laws of war? And yeah, we do. It's called international humanitarian law. But here's the catch. While those rules technically apply to AI, there's no real way to enforce them. There are no teeth. Which brings us right back to the present day, where this whole conflict has moved out of the back rooms and is now being fought in two very public arenas: the courtroom and, of course, the battlefield itself. So, Anthropic is now suing the government. They're basically arguing that this whole ban was illegal retaliation because they exercised their First Amendment right to speak up about AI safety. They're also saying the whole supply chain risk thing was done without due process. And this is where the story takes a fascinating full circle turn, one that shows how this tech is completely changing what war even looks like. It's not just about AI choosing targets anymore. Now, the physical stuff that makes AI work has become a target itself. In retaliation for those AI-assisted strikes, Iran didn't just fire missiles at military bases. They targeted the Amazon Web Services data centers in the region, the very buildings where these AI models live and breathe. A center in the UAE actually got hit and had to shut down. This revealed a completely new vulnerability for the modern age. And all of this leaves us with this final massive question. As these incredibly powerful systems get baked deeper and deeper into our military, we have to figure this out. When a machine, a complex algorithm, helps make a decision that could mean life or death, who is ultimately responsible? That is a question we have to answer, and right now, nobody knows.